All right, let's talk about something huge. With everything going on in the world right now, all the economic and political craziness, how do you actually protect yourself and your money? We're going to break down the massive shifts that are happening and turn it all into a practical guide for keeping your family's savings safe. Okay, let's just jump right in.
This isn't just some casual observation. This is a pretty stark warning from the analysis we're looking at today, and it really sets the tone. It's telling us that the stakes are incredibly high. The message is crystal clear. A major shakeup isn't just a possibility. It's probably coming, and it might be a lot closer than most of us think.
So, that really brings us to the big question, right? It's one thing to hear about all this global chaos, but it's another thing entirely to know what you're supposed to do about it. How do you take these giant, abstract threats and turn them into real, concrete actions that actually protect what you've worked so hard for? That's exactly what we're going to unpack.
Okay, so to get to the solution, we've got to first dig into the root of the problem. And the analysis we're digging into points to this massive, tectonic shift in the whole global financial system. And it's all centered on the US dollar, which, as you know, has been the king of currencies for decades.
The key term you're going to hear a lot about is de-dollarization. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Countries all over the world are actively trying to step away from using the dollar for everything. And this isn't some small trend happening on the sidelines. It is a major force that's completely redrawing the world's economic map.
So you might be asking, why is this happening now? What's the big rush? Well, the analysis points to a few key things. For one, a lot of nations, especially the group known as the BRICS, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they feel like the current system is just oppressive. You've got the US creating money out of thin air and then using financial sanctions as a weapon. It's basically pushed a lot of countries to say, you know what, we need another option. They just don't want their economic fate tied to decisions being made thousands of miles away.
And this is the real kicker from the analysis. This isn't just some passing phase or a political statement that'll blow over. The momentum behind de-dollarization is so huge that it's now seen as, unstoppable. The train has left the station. The world is moving to a new financial setup, whether we're ready for it or not. So if the dollar is losing its grip, what's taking its place? Is it another currency, like the yuan or something? Well, not exactly. The answer is something much more real, much more tangible. Power is actually shifting to the nations that control essential physical resources. The concept is called resource sovereignty. Just think of resource sovereignty as true, genuine independence. It's a nation's ability to make sure it has its own food, its own energy, its own critical minerals without being held hostage by another country's navy or their political games. In the world that's taking shape, this is literally a matter of national survival.
So what are we talking about here? What are these critical assets? They're the real stuff, the tangible things a country needs to actually function. We're talking precious metals, like gold and silver, which have been real money for thousands of years. Energy, of course, like oil and gas, and things we often just take for granted, like food and the fertilizer needed to grow it. And then there's the big one, the strategic and rare earth minerals that are the absolute lifeblood of all our modern tech. But here's the twist, and it's a big one. According to the analysis, it's not enough to just have all this stuff buried in the ground. The real power, and honestly, the real weakness, is in the ability to process it. The Achilles heel isn't a lack of resources, it's a lack of refineries and processing plants.
All right, get ready for this number. 90 to 95%. Just let that sink in for a second. What on earth could that possibly be?
Yeah, that's how much of the refined rare earth minerals the West needs for everything, from your smartphone to your car to defense technology, that comes from China. This is a gigantic, massive strategic vulnerability. We might have the raw materials here in North America, but we just don't have the infrastructure to turn them into something usable at scale.
And this quote from the analysis just hammers the point home. The absolute #1 priority for national security is to rebuild that industrial muscle. Because true resource sovereignty isn't about what you have in the ground, it's about what you can actually make and control from start to finish.
Okay, so we've been talking about nations and these huge global shifts. But what does this mean for you, for your family? Well, the good news is the core idea is exactly the same. You just need to build your own personal financial fortress based on these exact same principles of sovereignty and real tangible value. Let's just put it side by side. On one hand, you've got the traditional financial system. It's all just promises, right? Digits on a screen. It's super vulnerable to inflation, and you're totally dependent on institutions you have zero control over. But on the other hand, you have physical assets.
They're tangible. You can hold them. They have real-world value, they can protect you from a falling currency, and best of all, you own them directly. You basically become your own bank.
So, what are the actual building blocks for your own personal fortress? Well, according to the source material, you're basically mirroring what the smart nations are doing. First up, precious metals like gold and silver. They're seen as having the potential to just go through the roof in the long term. Second, energy assets like oil and gas. And third, on a super practical level, essentials like storable food. I mean, we've all seen how quickly supply chains can break down. Having your own stockpile is the ultimate security blanket.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds really complicated, maybe even a little scary, but it doesn't have to be. The whole point here is to make this practical, something you can actually do. So let's break it down into a simple plan that pretty much any family can start to follow.
It really just boils down to 4 simple steps. First, just take a look at your own situation. What's your budget? What's your comfort level with risk? Second, pick a mix of assets that feels right for you. Third, and look, this is probably the most important part, just start small. You do not need a fortune to get started. And finally, number 4, take some time to learn about how to store your assets securely. Because owning it is one thing, protecting it is everything.
And we need to be really clear about the mindset here. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This isn't about trying to time the market to make a fast buck. No, this is a defensive play. It's about preserving what you have and building a financial defense that can handle that storm that our source analysis sees coming over the horizon. So, we'll leave you with this one question to really think about. Looking at everything that's happening and understanding these powerful trends, have you taken the steps to protect your family? Is your personal financial fortress built on a solid foundation of real stuff, or is it exposed to the winds of change? The time to prepare, well, that time is right now.